reach out to the people that have the education in this, that are meant to be the professionals and the
Social work.
people in these roles. If you
Here, let
need
me
that extra
copy this
support,
so I can.
please do
What do you
so.
want to do?
Please be respectful and really just
I'm
compassionate
doing
towards
this.
yourself and other people.
Please. Okay.
Welcome different opinions and
Huh?
perspectives.
I
Stay
want to make. I
curious
made a
and keep an
note
open
here.
mind at
What are
the
you
end of
doing?
the day. With that
What
being
are you doing?
said, I want to just take
Just
a
do.
moment to really acknowledge
Okay.
that today's topic is a sensitive one.
Okay.
We're
Let
going to
me
be
just.
talking about suicide awareness
Oh.
and prevention. It is a topic that can bring up strong emotions, memories, or even physical reactions for some. Remember that
Yeah.
this is an educational space, it's not therapy. So, I do want to encourage you to take care of yourself as we go along. If at any point in time you feel overwhelmed, please step away, stretch, breathe, reach out to someone you trust. You're gonna ultimately know yourself best. Check in with yourself throughout the entirety of this conversation. And always know that 988 is a resource. You're gonna see visual reminders on the slides as we go along through today's presentation. So just take a moment right now to just pause before we jump into today's conversation and honor the lives that have been lost. And let's really honor the families also who have lost someone.
Since you're trying to talk about suicide today, and as soon as you bring up AI with that, they all get even more upset, about that they blame it on AI, because that's what they're having. You understand?
And so September
What?
is Suicide Prevention Month with a dedicated, actually, Suicide Prevention Week. So it's a double whammy, if you will. And Suicide Prevention Week is this week. Now, these observances matter for a few big reasons. We want to add some visibility to it, especially with suicide. It's often hidden, by shame, by stigma. But by talking about it openly, especially during this time, we bring it out of the shadows. And I'm pretty sure we've talked about it in the past where silence breeds shame. And so by talking about it, we're helping reduce that shame, we're reducing that stigma. We also want to come together, whether as community, professionals, or all of the above, by really, eh, I guess, I don't know, increasing, that's the word, increasing the education, right? Because a lot of people are not aware of the warning signs. They're not fully aware of how to respond or even have that conversation when it comes to suicide. So the awareness week really gives us this concentrated opportunity to share this life-saving information, because at the end of the day this information can share or can save a life. And we can come together as a community to recognize that this is a concern. Um, but while doing that, we can also recognize that this is a collective responsibility. It's not just the responsibility of a professional. While we have a greater responsibility because we have the education, we have the professional knowledge, etc., prevention is something that behooves all of us, right? Because at the end of the day, grief is something that's going to touch all of our lives. It's for all of us. So we all want to be part of this prevention plan, if you will. And it's something that can also provide us all hope, right? When we all get together and learn about suicide, learn about the warning signs, how we can take action and actually engage in prevention, we recognize that there's hope. We can also recognize and honor the lives that have been lost. We can support the survivors, and we can send a message of hope, especially to the ones that are still struggling. Help is out there, right? And healing is possible. So ultimately, the goal here really is to understand, reduce stigma, help our community, and to really recognize risk and be able to respond with care. And I really want to emphasize the respond with care piece. And that's where we're going to start today. Because sometimes suicide is something that can be really difficult to understand. So before we dive deeper, I really want to start with talking about empathy. And we might not fully understand what drives someone to consider suicide. From the outside, it can really look confusing, even unimaginable. But empathy really isn't about having the same experience as someone else. That's really difficult to do, to have a copy paste experience as the next person. Um, but it's about making space, if you will, for someone else's pain without judgment. Instead of thinking, I would never do that, it's it's about trying to think or trying to reframe that thought rather of I can't imagine how unbearable this person's pain must be to consider suicide, or the level of desperation that this person must feel to be in this mindset. How can we start to reframe maybe our own thinking, um, because when we tap into that empathy, we start to realize that it keeps the door open, right? We're starting to replace our own assumptions. We start to become more curious, which I know we've talked about in the past. We start to remove that blame piece, and we start to tap into compassion, which I know I mentioned during our guidelines in the beginning. And really, compassion is what's needed truly, for prevention. So I know we've seen this video before, but again, I want to start here, especially with empathy, just to kind of set set the set the tone for today's conversation. And let me make sure I'm sharing my sound. There we go. All right, I'm sharing my sounds, and hopefully we can watch this together.
So, what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection, sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy: perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth; staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do; recognizing emotion in other people, and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, I'm down. I know what it's like down here.